Hi, it's Lerald, and this is the Cheapo Depot follow-up that I promised in our last video, which was a 3 Divines per map tier 17 ambush strategy video. That was a very big budget, 1% strategy, obviously, 3 Divines a map. And this is like a good working class strategy. This is nowhere close to as expensive or as difficult, but it's still great. I think if you argued that the strat is better, I wouldn't really disagree with you at all. This is a strategy I've talked about in the past, at least in some capacity, and there's a reason for it. It's my fave. It's kind of everyone's favorite. Now it's cheap, but it's not free. It's not out and go. You know, that's PoE, baby. If you want a Pepsi Pal, you're gonna pay for it. So just to give some numbers, we're clocking in at a little under 30 chaos worth of Scarabs per map, somewhere in the 25 to 30 chaos range, and we are running tier 16s. We're taking about 3.5 minutes apiece, and I still pulled in around 1 divine per map in profits, so this strategy is a lot more efficient, which is really no surprise. And that means it's much less susceptible to runs of bad luck. It's also a lot easier. It's just not gated by difficulty at all. You know, if you can clear a tier 16, you can do this strategy. So players with less experience or just simply weaker characters, maybe you started the league late, maybe you're like a dad or something and you just don't have the time, you have more than 14 minutes a week to play or whatever. So, you know, this is definitely a strategy that can work for you even if you are kind of behind the 8-ball or again on a newer or weaker character. Now obviously your clear speed may vary and your RNG will vary even just from run to run. Prices on Scarabs might change slightly, although I kind of doubt it at this point in the league. But with all that being said, if you're struggling on what farm strat to run in the end game, this is kind of it. This is a strategy that I pretty much, now that we have 3 Atlas passive trees to play with all the time, this is one that I pretty much lock in and then use my other 2 for experimentation. This is the gold standard. It's relatively cheap for a juicy strategy. It's fast, it's got high potential, it's doable by pretty much any build, and it is super simple. Click stuff, kill guys. So let's get into it, but first be sure to like and subscribe if you like this video, find it helpful, and want to see more like it. Okay, the algorithm gods have been appeased, on with the strat. This is the classic tier 16 strongbox farming setup with all the optimization for efficiency that we can possibly manage. We're not using containment scarabs in this setup because those are like 1.5 divines each. They're way too expensive for tier 16 maps. We're not using discernment scarabs. Those are 15, 16 chaos each, so they're too expensive for a non-containment strategy. We're really just trying to fit around 20 strongboxes or so into each and every map, and then use that to kill a bunch of dudes and get in and out of the map as quickly as we can. The strongboxes will drop whatever they feel like dropping, really. We are boss rushing, so we can get a good set of Eldritch Altar mods throughout the map. Depending on what build you're playing, you can do red or blue altars, you can do minion mods, or you can do quant and rarity player mods. It's kind of up to you based on just how strong your build is and whether you're charge stacking or you're kind of doing a more like conventional build. Really, it'll be up to you. And I am doing this on Dunes because I have scryed the divination cards from Mesa onto my Dunes map. If you haven't done that, then I would run this strategy on Mesa, whatever map you want to, but I would prefer Mesa personally until you find the Nameless Seer in one of those Mesa maps. And then you're able to scry them over to, again, Dunes, whatever map you like, really, and then run those instead. Now, you can do this on any map you like. I just like Dunes, so I would say that's like a suggestion, not a requirement. There's also another reason to farm Dunes or Mesa. They both drop Fortress as their dedicated tier 17 map, whereas Jungle Valley, usually a pretty big common favorite among the community, that drops Abomination, and Abomination maps are like 40 to 50 chaos cheaper than Fortress maps, so that can very quickly add up to a lot more chaos per map from Dunes or Mesa than from like pretty much any of the maps that drop Abomination and Citadel. Those are, I think, like 40 and 60 chaos, respectively, less than Fortress, Sanctuary, and Ziggurat. Those are kind of the 3 best of the tier 17 maps, so you generally do want to farm a map that will drop either Fortress, Sanctuary, or Ziggurat. Now I'm also running Corrupted 8 mod maps. You can do Chisel, Alk, and Val on your maps if you want. Instead, that's a little bit more tedious, but it can definitely save you some chaos. About 8 to 10 chaos a map, I would say. Either approach works. The point is just to get as much quantity and pack size onto your maps as possible, as those will both result in you getting more stuff from guys and more guys to kill. that also drop more stuff, and they kind of act as force multipliers on each other. Now, in terms of what we're farming, like I said, we are kind of just getting whatever we get from the Strongboxes, but what we really want is tier 17 maps, raw currency, so very easy to convert into divines, Scarabs, again, easy to convert into divines, and divination cards, also easy to convert into divines. That's pretty much it, but there's a lot of it to go around. All right, let me go ahead and jump into my Atlas passive tree. I'm looking at it in-game, but I'll have a PoE planner link of it in my spreadsheet as well. And this is a pretty normal tier 16 strongbox farming strategy. We're taking literally every single strongbox node. And the difference here, as I kind of mentioned in the tier 17 strategy, is that we do want to take concealed logistics, the doubling of all the maps from strongboxes, the increased chance of getting cartographers strongboxes. All of this is good because there's a very decent chance of getting tier 17 maps from strongboxes, and sometimes you'll get 2 of them at a time instead. So instead of getting, you know, 110 chaos or whatever worth of a T17 map out of a strongbox, you can just very regularly get 220 chaos. This is great, and it's definitely better than any alternative that you could pick up throughout the tree. And then also to kind of juice the tier 17 farming, we are just taking every single one of these shaping nodes, shaping the mountains, skies, and world. And then I'm going through bold undertakings, which is totally useless, but I'm doing that just simply so that I can afford to get all of these nodes. You could come through these 2 Scarab drop chance nodes instead and skip bold undertakings, but then you'd have to drop a point somewhere else in the tree, which isn't necessarily a problem, but that is something you would have to think about. You could maybe drop this middle wheel here, since you are kind of taking 3 points that are kind of worthless in essence chance to get the quant and rarity center wheel. I think it's worth it to come get this, but you know, if you disagree, that's okay. Also, because I am running Corrupted 8 mod maps, none of my maps are chiseled, so I'm not taking chiseled perfection. This is something you'll want to kind of remember in every Atlas strategy. Sometimes I forget, I will admit, sometimes I forget and I leave chiseled perfection in. And then I'll get like 30 maps into a Corrupted 8 mod farming strategy and realize like, oh, I'm just completely wasting this point. Whoopsie. So always try to keep that in mind as well. And then we are doing some blocker nodes here. You know, that's probably a thing that I could justify dropping, is just drop 1 blocker node and not take bold undertakings. But like, I really want to block Mirrors of Delirium, not because I dislike Deli, but it does make this slower, and then all the Deli Scarabs are terrible, and that's pretty much the case for all the rest of these. Breach Scarabs, Abyss Scarabs, Expedition Scarabs, they're all terrible. Ritual Altars, having extra guys to kill, you don't want to actually run the rituals, but like that can be okay, but the Ritual Scarabs are also kind of bad. Ideally, I would block Legion and Blight Scarabs as well, because they're okay, they're not terrible, but like blocking as many of these as you can will increase your chance of getting more high value Scarabs. Things like Ambush Scarabs and Ultimatum Scarabs can be particularly valuable. So like anything you can do to kind of push for those more valuable Scarabs is ideal. We are also getting a fair amount of increased Scarab drop chance in here. I'm not sure exactly where that is in this passive tree, but it's somewhere in the like 80% range here. Scarabs, there it is right here. 82% increased Scarabs found in your maps. You know, that's definitely good. Potentially we could go for even more. We could come over and take this and take these 2 points here, but I don't really see anything that I would really want to give up to get that. We're already doing everything we can to kind of min-max our map mod effect and our quantity and our rarity and our map drop chance. And so there isn't really anything left over to kind of spend on juicing Scarabs any further beyond that point. I think this is pretty good. I would say if you don't care about tier 17s for whatever reason, maybe you just don't feel like running them or selling them, then going with Scarabs is kind of the alternative to all these points that are spent in the map drop chance nodes. That is where I would recommend spending those. Just spend them and getting more Scarabs, like literally just come and take significant troves and come over and take these 2 points and then just kind of put in random points and getting increased Scarab drop chance. And I think that would work okay. Not as good, but easier to deal with if you really don't care about trading tier 17 maps. All right, now as for the Scarabs that I'm running a super simple setup. I'm running 3 ambush Scarabs, so that's 15 extra strongboxes in every map. You know, you get 1 from your Atlas passive tree, and they can randomly appear as well. And then you get, I believe it's 3 more from the map device. Right, yeah, 3 extra strongboxes from the map device. So you're getting kind of a minimum of 19, but potentially over 20. Strongboxes in every map, so that's good. Then we're also taking Ambush Scarab of Hidden Compartments just to have more chance to open the Strongboxes. As I said in the previous video, this does stack with secret compartments and all of the small passives that give you a chance to be openable again. I don't like taking, I don't like rolling them. Like, I do like taking tamper-proof. I don't like rolling the Strongboxes. You can do it, but it is time consuming, and I think it winds up, you know, there's potential that it can be really good to sit and roll Diviner Strongboxes or Arcanist Strongboxes and get really big, valuable drops out of them, but it's very, very time consuming. And I would rather kind of just keep things simple and just run tamper-proof and not think about that at all. And so between those two, I really just like to get as many kind of chances to open all the Strongboxes as I can, kill as many guys as I can in each of them. And so Hidden Compartments being like a 1 or 1.5 Chaos Scarab is a pretty easy choice, along with the 3 Ambush Scarabs as well. And then I go with Ambush Scarab of Potency as my final Scarab. That is, you know, if you haven't unlocked your 6th slot yet, then you don't have to run this. You also, if you really wanted to kind of push this a little bit more expensive, you could run a Cartography Scarab of Corruption and give yourself Corrupted 8 mod map farming power throughout the whole map. You could also do, if you wanted to maybe keep things a little bit cheaper, but kind of do something maybe a little bit more valuable than the Potency. If you like selling maps, farming maps, you could maybe even rule out both of these 2 minor Ambush Scarabs and throw in like a Cartography Scarab of Escalation and a Cartography Scarab of Corruption. Use both of these together, get a massive amount of maps, a massive amount of Corrupted 8 mod maps. If you're willing to sell the maps, which is, it can be tedious, a lot of people don't like to do it. That's ultimately why I didn't recommend it in this strategy. But if you are willing to, this will make you more. Running 3 Ambush Scarabs and then these 2 Cartography Scarabs will be more profitable per hour. It's just going to require a lot more work on the back end of actually selling those maps. Or, you know, maybe you want to run them yourself. That also will work. And so ultimately I went with this setup of the 3 Ambush, 1 Hidden Compartments, and 1 Potency. Just simply because, well, it is so simple, and simplicity is kind of the name of the game here. All right, I think I've pretty much covered everything in terms of setup, so now I'm just going to go ahead and open up the tab here. And as you can see, I have 5 fortress maps up in the top here, and these are all, other than these 2, I guess, which did come from a Strongbox and were duplicated, but then these other 3 were all native drops. Then I have 10 down here that came from Strongboxes and were corrupted. And so these are a little bit harder to gauge because people don't necessarily want to buy a corrupted map. Like, I mean, some might. There definitely is some potential for these to be really, really good. And so I more see these as ones that I could run myself. Like, I have looked at all of them and they're very easy to run. I think in my calculation, I ultimately counted each of these as about half of a map. I think you could definitely sell them for half price and sell them all instantly. That wouldn't be a problem at all. I also got a Badge of the Brotherhood and Ephemeral Edge, not bad. And then because I was farming Dunes with Mesa div cards on it, I did get 10 Fortunate cards in the span of 20 maps, so that's pretty good. I also got an Enlightened support, so that was a pretty big boon. And then just a lot of currency, a lot of Scarabs, a lot of raw currency in here as well. I don't think I got any raw Divine Orbs, if I remember correctly. No raw Divine Orbs, but I did get a Hinocora's Lock, which I did not include in my currency per hour. So if we take a look here, the Wealthy Exile tab value is 128 divines. Obviously, I'm not going to count the Hinocora's Lock. And like I said, I did cut the Corrupted Tier 17 map value in half. So they were currently being valued at, what, 110 chaos each. So I just said 10 of these Corrupted Tier 17 maps are worth 55 chaos, so minus 550 chaos. And then minus 100 divines for the Hinocora's Lock, so minus 16,000 chaos. That's assuming that chaos is still at the 160 price, which it was when I started this strategy. It was like a day ago, and I think it may have dropped a little bit, but you know, like I said, I started this strategy at a time when divines were still moving at 160 each, so it's fine. Ultimately, the profitability here was really, really good, even with extracting that Hinocora's Lock, extracting those tier 17 maps. You know, even if we zeroed them out, right? Even if we just said, like, all of these corrupted ones, I'm just going to throw them in the trash, we're still significantly over 10 divines per hour, even if all of those don't count at all, and obviously ignoring the Hinocora's Lock. So that's pretty great. But they do count. Like, I'm going to run these. I'm going to run these top 6 ones very easily. These all seem great. And like, there's actually pretty good rolls on them, more Scarabs, more currency. This one maybe isn't so great in terms of rolls. But then this bottom one has Awakener's Desolation. Not a big fan of that particular mod, but it has 100% more maps on it, so I'm going to do some Corrupted 8 mod map farming in these as well, and probably get like 40 to 60 maps per map out of them, so these will definitely pay off as well. So ultimately, I actually had a better time doing this farm strategy. You know, if we exclude the Hinakora's Lock, like if I counted that in, we're over 100 divides an hour in the little time that I did this run. Obviously, that's not realistic or representative or anything, but I actually had a better time doing this strategy than I did this super duper expensive one, in part because of good RNG, but definitely not entirely. Like, I had a lot of, I mean, like I said, I didn't get a single raw divine out of this run, and that's fairly common to get a decent, like a raw divine or something. I did get a containment scarab instead. So ultimately, I would say that this strategy is, it's technically not more per hour, but it is definitely way more efficient. You know, we're talking about 4 to 1 on your return as opposed to like doubling your money. That's pretty huge. And also, it's just a very fun gameplay loop. This is a much cheaper and more efficient version of the tier 17 approach to ambush strongbox farming, and I really do think it is a lot better if you're worried about minimizing runs of bad luck or just like the massive initial startup cost of a super expensive containment scarab based approach. This isn't as profitable per hour, at least not without huge currency or scarab drops, like getting a Hinakora's Lock or something, but there is some really amazing potential here. Any farm strategy that has you just like rolling over fields of monsters like a lawnmower is usually pretty good, and this definitely fits that bill. You know, I really love it. This could be all that PoE was, and I don't think I would ever get tired of the game. I'm glad that there's variety, don't get me wrong, but I've done hundreds, if not thousands of hours of ambush farming over the years, and I still love it, love it, love it. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your drops. Bye.